I'm Ruby. I'm sitting on my grandfather's porch, now mine, as the sun sets behind the tree line, bathing everything in a warm, golden glow. The fields are quiet, and a cardinal perches on the fence post, eyeing me curiously. Beside me lies an old, scratched flip phone. I charged it last week, not because I need the evidence anymore, but because of the voicemail it holds, my grandfather's voice, a steady and clear reminder of the love and truth I've found. Let me take you back a few months to a turning point that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning, and I found myself in a stuffy conference room on East Main Street. The old brick building housed a law firm on the first floor, with an insurance agency above. Inside, a long oak table sat in the center, surrounded by 6 leather chairs. A window overlooked the parking lot, but my attention was fixed on the man at the head of the table, Mr. Henry Carter, my grandfather's attorney. My father, Victor, arrived 15 minutes early, wearing his same old suit from the funeral. He hadn't bothered to change his tie, and his face was set in a hard line. My stepmother, Linda, followed in high heels, her chin held high, clutching her purse tightly against her ribs. Behind them was a young man carrying a briefcase, my father's attorney. My half-brother Ethan came in 5 minutes before 10, hands in his pockets, looking like a kid about to face the principal. My uncle, Robert, arrived last, nodding at me in the lobby but saying nothing. Mr. Carter wasted no time. I was retained by Mr. Arthur Miller 2 years ago to prepare and maintain his revocable living trust. This trust supersedes any prior testamentary documents. My father leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. What trust? Dad's will is with Thompson and Associates. We've had the same family attorney for years. Mr. Carter didn't flinch. That will was revoked upon the execution of this trust. My father turned to his attorney, who shook his head slightly. If a valid trust was executed after the will, the attorney said quietly, the trust controls. My father's jaw tightened, and a muscle pulsed near his ear. Mr. Carter placed his hands flat on the table. Mr. Miller was very specific about his wishes. Shall I proceed? He opened the first document, a blue-covered one with a notary seal at the bottom. I, Arthur Miller, of Pine County, being of sound mind, hereby declare this revocable living trust. The entirety of my estate, including the property at 2345 Elm Road, all financial accounts held at First National Bank, and all personal property, I leave to my granddaughter, Ruby Miller, as sole beneficiary. My father shot up from his chair so fast that it rolled backward into the wall. That's not possible. I'm his son. I'm his only son. Mr. Carter continued as if my father hadn't moved. Mr. Miller was of sound mind at the time of execution. The trust was witnessed by 2 independent parties and notarized by a registered notary in Pine County. Linda's voice cracked. He was old. He was confused. Mr. Carter reached into his briefcase and produced a second document. Attached is a cognitive capacity assessment conducted by Dr. Emily Harris, Mr. Miller's primary physician, on the date of signing. The assessment confirms full mental competency. My father slammed his palm on the table. I'll contest this. I'll take it to probate. Mr. Carter paused. That is your right. However, I am also obligated to inform you that during the preparation of this trust, my office identified a series of financial transactions from Mr. Miller's accounts. These transactions were conducted using a power of attorney that had expired 12 months prior to the first withdrawal. The room seemed to grow colder. Mr. Carter looked at my father. Shall I continue? My father's attorney put a hand on his arm, but my father shook it off. Mr. Carter said, Mr. Miller requested that I preserve an audio recording as part of the trust file and give the family the opportunity to hear it. Does anyone object? My Uncle Robert spoke first. "Play it." My father opened his mouth, but Robert cut him off. "Play it, Mr. Carter." Mr. Carter pressed a button on the laptop, and my father's voice filled the room. "Dad doesn't know I used the power of attorney. It expired last year, but the bank never checked. I moved $50,000 already. Another $15,000 next month, and we're clear on the business." Then Linda's voice, "What about Ruby's payments? If she starts sending the $2,000, we can cover the rest of the mortgage." My father again, "She'll pay. She's soft about the old man. Tell her he's disappointed in her. She'll fold." The recording ended, and a heavy silence filled the room. Linda stared at the table, her hands folded. Ethan sat rigid, his eyes wide. My uncle's knuckles were white around the arm of his chair. He turned to my father. "You stole from Dad." My father tried to defend himself. "That's taken out of context." My uncle's voice was low and controlled. "What context, Victor? You used an expired document to drain our father's money while he was dying." Mr. Carter closed the laptop. "The documentation of these withdrawals, totaling $65,000, has been compiled. Ms. Miller will determine whether to pursue legal action." All eyes turned to me. I took a deep breath. "I didn't ask for this, Dad. Grandpa asked for this because you gave him no other choice." I didn't raise my voice, but I knew my words carried weight. In the days that followed, Mr. Carter handled everything methodically, just as my grandfather would have wanted. The farm's ownership was transferred to me, and the keys arrived in an envelope, along with a workshop padlock combination written in my grandfather's handwriting. The bank opened an internal review, and the $65,000 was flagged and traced to my father's business account. I decided not to file criminal charges, but Mr. Carter made it clear that if my father initiated harassment or contested the trust in bad faith, the file would be forwarded to the county prosecutor. After that, the calls started. My father, my stepmother, and sometimes Ethan's phone, 28 calls a day. I counted because my phone logged the number. I didn't answer a single one. I listened to the first few messages, and they were all the same: pleas about the farm, threats of legal action, and demands that I not do this to the family. The math caught up with my father quickly. His auto repair shop had been struggling for 2 years, and he'd been keeping it afloat by drawing from my grandfather's accounts. With those accounts frozen and the bank demanding repayment, he had nothing to fall back on. Linda, who loved to flaunt her expensive car and remodeled kitchen, started receiving collection calls. The community caught wind of what had happened. My father's regular customers started going to the chain repair shop on Highway 22 instead. The pastor at the local church had a private conversation with my father, and after that, he stopped attending. Linda deleted her Facebook post about ungrateful children and then her entire account. My uncle called me one evening, his voice rough with regret. "I should have been paying attention, kid." "I'm sorry." I told him, "You didn't know." "I should have." Ethan also called. It was the first honest conversation we'd had in years. "I didn't know, Ruby. I swear. I didn't know about any of it." I believed him. But sorry has to come with change, Ethan, not just words. He was quiet for a moment. "I'm going to move out. Start of the year." As the months passed, the calls decreased. By December, it was 15 calls a day. By January, it was 3, then 1, and finally, silence. It all started 4 months ago, on a Sunday in October. My father called and said, "Family meeting." I grew up in a small house on Maple Street, about 15 minutes outside of town. It was a nice neighborhood, where everyone waved, but behind closed doors, things were different. My mother died when I was 6. I have only a few memories of her: the smell of her perfume, the the sound of her laughter, and the way she'd tuck me in at night. When I was 8, my father married Linda. She was a strict woman who brought order to the house, but it felt more like a prison. She kept a ledger in the drawer, where she logged every expense on me: groceries, school supplies, doctor visits. Ethan came along when I was 10. After that, I was always second best. He got new clothes, while I got his hand-me-downs. He got the bigger room, and I was stuck with the one with a leaky window. The only place I felt at home was my grandfather's farm. Every summer, he'd pick me up in his old truck and take me to his place in Pine County. He taught me how to build wooden toys, how to tend to the garden, and how to cook simple meals. He never once made me feel like a burden. I left home at 18 with a scholarship to the local college and a part-time job at the grocery store. My father stood at the door as I loaded my car and said, "Don't come back broke." I didn't come back to live. I worked hard, got my degree in business, and landed a job at a small firm in town. I rented a small apartment, paid my own bills, and was finally free. But every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'd drive back to Maple Street for my grandfather. He'd sit at the end of the table, quiet, watching. After dinner, when everyone moved to the living room, he'd find me in the kitchen and say, "You're doing good, kid." Those 3 words kept me going. But then, Linda started making comments. "You know, Ruby, that college tuition was a lot of money." Or, "I saw your new clothes. Must be nice to spend so much on yourself." My father would just sit in his chair, nodding. One Tuesday night, my father called again. Family meeting. Sunday. Be here. When I arrived at the house, Ethan's truck was already there, as was Linda's new car. Inside, the kitchen table was cleared. My father sat at the head, Linda beside him, and a laptop open between them. Ethan was sitting across, scrolling his phone. "Sit down," my father said. Linda turned the laptop towards me. On the screen was a spreadsheet, itemizing every expense on me since I was born. The total at the bottom was $350,000. "We're not asking for all of it at once," my father said. "Monthly payments of $2,000. That's fair." I stared at the number, my chest feeling hollow. "What about Ethan?" I asked. Linda didn't blink. "Ethan is our son." I looked at my father. "Does Grandpa know about this?" My father leaned back. "Your grandfather agrees it's reasonable." Those words hit me like a punch. The man who had always loved me unconditionally, who had never asked for anything in return, was supposed to agree to this? I drove home in silence. I tried calling my grandfather, but his phone just rang and rang. My father's explanation was always the same: he's tired. He doesn't want to be bothered. I believed him, even though a part of me knew something was wrong. Then, one Saturday morning, I drove to the farm. The house was locked, the curtains drawn. I walked around the barn, and his truck was gone. The workshop was padlocked. I found the neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, in her garden. "Haven't seen Mr. Miller in a couple of weeks, dear. Your father said he went to stay with a friend in the city." "A friend in the city?" My grandfather hardly ever left the county. I called my father from the driveway. "Where's Grandpa?" "I told you. He's resting." "Why do you keep pushing this?" "Because he's 82 and I can't reach him. If you'd just agree to the payments, none of this would be happening." He hung up. That night, I texted my grandfather. "Grandpa, it's Ruby. I love you. Please call me." The message was delivered, but there was no reply. At 11:14 p.m. My phone rang. It was a woman's voice, low and careful. "Is this Ruby Miller?" "Yes. My name is Sarah Brown. I'm a charge nurse at County General Hospital. Your grandfather was admitted a week ago. He has stage 4 cancer, and he's been asking for you every day. My knees gave out, and I caught the counter. Your father told us you refused to visit. I drove to the hospital in the dark. The lobby was quiet, with fluorescent lights and a vending machine humming. I walked to the front desk. Arthur Miller, room 315. The receptionist typed, looked at her screen, and paused. I'm sorry, ma'am. Only approved visitors are allowed after hours. I'm his granddaughter. She scrolled and then looked at me with pity. Your name isn't on the approved list. The patient's son updated it yesterday. Only Victor and Linda Miller are authorized. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. I asked if she could call the room, but she said she couldn't override the family contact's instructions. I was about to leave when I saw a woman in blue scrubs open a side door at the end of the corridor. She looked both ways and then waved at me. It was Sarah. She led me through a staff hallway. Your father came in on Tuesday and told the front desk you were estranged and didn't want contact. He updated the visitor list, removed your name, and added his wife's. I followed her to room 315. The first thing I saw was my grandfather, looking so frail, with an oxygen line looped over his ears. His eyes were closed, and the monitor beeped steadily. I stepped closer, and my shoes squeaked on the floor. His eyes opened, and for a second, he just looked at me, as if checking if I was real. Then his face crumpled, and tears slid down his cheeks. Sweetheart, he said, his voice raspy. He told me you didn't want to come. He reached under his pillow and pulled out an old flip phone. He pressed it into my hand. Everything you need is in there, the number, the recording. And my voice, in case I don't get to say it again. I sat with him for an hour, holding his hand until his breathing slowed into sleep. Then I stepped into the hallway and opened the phone. There was one saved audio file, one contact, Mr. Henry Carter, attorney, and one voicemail. I pressed play on the audio file and heard my father's voice, casual and confident. Dad doesn't know I used the power of attorney. It expired last year, but the bank never checked. I moved $50,000 already. I opened the voicemail. My grandfather's voice, steady and clear, said, Ruby, this is your grandpa. If you're hearing this, I'm probably gone or close to it. I changed my trust 2 years ago. I hired a lawyer named Henry Carter. His number is in this phone. Everything goes to you, the farm, the accounts, all of it. Carter has the papers. Don't let your father tell you otherwise. I love you, sweetheart. You don't owe them a thing. The voicemail ended, and I slid down the wall, sitting on the floor. Sarah found me there and just sat beside me, waiting. The next morning, I called Mr. Carter. He'd been expecting my call. He explained everything, how my grandfather had suspected my father of misusing the power of attorney and had hired him to set up the trust. And that's how I ended up here, on this porch, with the weight of the past finally lifting off my shoulders. I've learned that love isn't a transaction, and I don't have to carry the debt that wasn't mine to begin with. I've set boundaries with my father and Linda, and I'm finally at peace. If you're out there carrying a debt you never signed for, put it down. Walk away from the table. It was never yours. Leave a word in the comments that describes what your family said you owed them. And if you want to hear more stories like this, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.